Hello everyone, welcome to Legal Darshan. I hope you are doing well. In today's video, we are going to start with the discussion on Indian evidence law. We will first be looking into what is an evidence, how important an evidence is for the purpose of legal proceedings, what is the history behind evidence, because everything, for understanding anything and everything in law, it becomes very important that we are aware of the history that the subject carries. Understanding history of why this subject is ultimately there becomes very important sometimes, okay, and because that will give you a very coherent idea of what the subject is going to tell you, how do we deal with it, and what really is the importance of the subject. Now, even though the law of evidence does not require history to be introduced, because we know how important evidence is, without an evidence, nothing can be proven in the court of law. Okay, what is the importance of evidence? Let's understand by one very, very simple example. Now, let's assume that there is one judge. Okay, there is one judge, and before him, we have two parties. One is the party which is asserting that the other party has committed the offense of theft, that the other party has stolen 50,000 rupees of money from me. But the other party is very, strong, very firmly stating that no, I have not stolen money. You can check anything or everything. I do not have this money. I'm very confident in myself. Now, just by these two statements, a judge, a jury cannot decide who is saying correct, who is saying true, because both are making their statements, both are protecting their interest. Merely because one of the parties are very firm, very true, very, strongly saying what they are saying, doesn't mean that judge or the jury member is going to believe them, right? So, therefore, what you say is not the evidence, but what you prove becomes the evidence in the legal proceedings. Okay, so that is the value of evidence. Any case, every case, be it civil, be it criminal, be it any matrimonial case, evidence is the basic necessity, right? Without evidence, a case can never proceed. Now, evidence is not just understood because we had evidence law, Indian Evidence Act 1872. We had Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam. We have Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam 2024. But the rule of evidence existed in pre-colonial civilizations as well, right? So the Dharam Shastras we have, the Manu Smriti, the Yajnavalkya Smriti, the Narad Smriti. Yajnavalkya Smriti is the one on which the Mitakshara and Dayabhaga schools of Hindu laws are also based upon. Now, even these schools, even these smritis, even these dharam shastras, they had rules of evidence. They had also talked about oaths, sakshya, witness, confessions, ikrar, written documents, oral testimonies, and as much as now the offense of perjury is, it existed back in those times also. Arthashastra is also vocal about the rules of evidence. So, in fact, in Arthashastra and in any in a lot of shastras, we have found that there was the rule that if you are saying false things before the judge, before the king at that time, because it used to be king in ancient civilization who used to be the adjudicator of disputes. So if you would have told a lie before a king, that would have been an offense. You would have been punished. So the offense of perjury also, that is the offense of giving false evidence, stems from the ancient civilizations where kings used to be the rulers and adjudicators of the disputes. Not merely Hindu law, but Islamic jurisprudence under sultans, Mughals, that is also not silent on the evidence law. They had Shahad, Qasam, Sahifa, all these instruments to establish the rules of evidence. However, when colonization happened, okay, Britishers came, there was Charter of 1726 also, colonial impact started being created in India. But Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta used to be the presidency states at that time. So they started applying legal principles. Now, what happened? Even though we were relying on the colonial principles. There was incoherence in the evidence law that was followed. The principles of evidence were divergent on the basis of caste and religion, right? So there used to be enormous chaos despite there being certain partial codification. Realizing this, a drafting committee was constituted at that time. Indian Penal Code was enacted in 1860. Police Act also came. We had old CRPC also enacted in the 18th century, 18th, late early 1800s, right? And we had Transfer of Property Act, we had the Contract Act, as well as we had the Indian uh, Evidence Act also being enacted. Okay, so its constituting committee consisted of Sir James Stephen. Sir James Stephen was the one who drafted the Indian Evidence Act, comprising of 167 sections. It was uniform without adhering to any religious instructions. It was rational and was applicable throughout the territory of India. Much later in 2023, when we saw a complete criminal law overhaul, we saw that Indian Evidence Act got converted to Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam, right? Because it incorporated modern changes like digitalization, talking about electronic records, updated definitions, etc., as that are suitable to the present timescape. So this is the development in the evidence law. This is the history of evidence law. And irrespective of the fact that whether we have Evidence Act or not, whether we have Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam or not, evidence is always going to be present at the very core of any legal system. Without evidence, one cannot proceed with the case. Now, how are evidences placed? Evidences are placed based on the fact that what system is being followed. Okay, so one is the adversarial system of justice, which is prevalent in India. Another is the inquisitorial system. Now, in India, how does a case proceed? How we see a lot of litigations happening, right? A lot also make to the limelight, right? So what happens is whatever the evidences are produced, on the basis of it, judges give the testimony. Judges do not go to the crime scene. Judges do not actively get involved in asking questions. You would have seen in movies, right? There are many movies which shows a criminal scene, right? Which shows a court scene. Many of the TV series which show that an advocate is inquiring from the witness. Advocate leads, sometimes they make the statement, objections, my lord, and so on. So it is the advocates who lead the criminal proceeding or who lead the legal proceeding per se, and judge is merely an adjudicator of the best evidence. Okay, whosoever evidence is best, that is the evidence that the court admits, based on the principles, of course, settled in the law, and therefore the decision comes. Now, in this case, judges rely heavily on the advocates that are presenting the evidence, and this is known as adversarial system. Many ways are adopted how evidence would be submitted, how evidence would be examined. There is examination, there is cross-examination, there is re-examination, and much more. Such a system is prevalent mainly in the common law nations like India, US, and UK. On the other side, we have inquisitorial system. Inquisitorial system is generally prevalent in just civil nations, which is France, Germany, etc. Here, judges play an active role. They inquire, they question witness, they also often enter into investigation. And therefore, when a judge is himself going into the investigative space, there comes certain discretion. Okay, so here judges' discretion prevail over the best evidence rule. Now, having said that there is a best evidence rule, what exactly is that? So the whole evidence law is premised on three principles. Okay, it is premised on three principles, namely, number one, the principle of evidence must confine to fact and issue. Okay, evidence must confine to matter in issue. Now, what exactly is matter in issue? For example, the case going before the court is A stole 10,000 rupees that belong to B. Okay, A stole the money, A is guilty of theft. Whether A is guilty of theft or not, that is the matter in issue. Now, in the court, I am bringing the evidence and I am saying, see, A has done cruelty with his wife. Is that a relevant evidence in the question? The answer is no. The court will say that this is not relevant. Why are you bringing it? It is an evidence that is not required. Go show it in the case where A is claiming divorce against his wife or A's wife is claiming divorce against him. So therefore, evidence must need to confine to the matter in issue. Then second principle is hearsay evidence is no evidence. Okay, apart from a few exceptions that we will see later on when we move forward with the evidence law. So hearsay evidence is A told B that Z stole Y's money and B told C. Now, if C goes before the court and say B told me that Y stole Z's money, and A told it to B, the court is going to say, please go, we are not going to believe what you are saying because it's a hearsay evidence. If it is not res geste, if it is not falling in the scope of res geste, as in it is not forming the part of same transaction, hearsay evidence is not good evidence and it will not be admitted in the court. Then third principle is best evidence should be given. For example, I have a sale deed. Okay, I have a sale deed in my name. It is an original with me, and the dispute is regarding the ownership of the property. I have the sale deed in my name, meaning I have the good title. Now, if I have the copy in original, I have the sale deed in original counterpart, I'll go to the court and I will say that, see, this is the original copy. Now, because I had the original copy, I don't need a photocopy or certified copy of that. So this is the best evidence that I have it in original. This is the primary document based on the basis of which I am claiming my ownership. Now, God forbid, or let's say a person forgets where he has kept the original sale deed, okay, or maybe his original sale deed is lost, maybe that is stolen. Now, in that case, the best evidence would become the photocopy that he might would have, okay, or the certified copy that he might would have obtained from the office of registrars and so on, right? So, best evidence must be the best evidence possible. You have to aim for the bestest evidence, and when these three rules are followed, the best evidence is presented, right? In that case, we call it a good evidence, which might have the tendency to tilt the balance in the favor of the client, okay, in the favor of your client or in the favor of any party, right? So this is what the best evidence rule generally suggests. Now, one very small question with which we will end the discussion. What is the difference between evidence and proof? Okay. Now, before we come to this particular point, I would like you to have a knowledge, have a brief idea of what exactly is an evidence. Now, let's say I saw that A was stealing B's money. Okay, I was in the market. At a distance of about 50 meters, I saw A stole the money. And in the CCTV camera, it got recorded. Now, this CCTV camera also recorded me as a witness. I go to the court and the court asks me, and the advocate asked me, what is it that you have seen? What I will say, I will reenact the memory, right? What I will say, I will say that I saw A, my lord, I saw A, and I saw that he, took his hand into the pocket of B, the backside pocket of B, and took the money out, which was a 500 rupee note, single note. Now, what did I do? I reenacted the past event in front of the court, right? That this is what I saw. And it was ultimately the core inquiry of the court that what actually happened. They saw a direct witness. I give the testimony. Now, the testimony I am giving is my evidence. Okay. It is the evidence which I am giving on the basis of the prosecution, on the behalf of the prosecution case, because I am the prosecution witness saying that A stole B's money. Now, this is not the proof that A stole B's money, but this is the evidence. I am giving my testimony, which is the evidence. Now, if A is not able to prove his case, then what happens? That the court will analyze this evidence, whether what I am saying is true. Court will see CCTV footage. Court will see that CCTV footage is showing exactly the same thing that Sneha has told, meaning that Sneha is also saying true, CCTV is also saying true, and there is one more witness who has also said the same thing. So this became the best evidence. My testimony, because I was a direct evidence, it became the best evidence, and therefore the court will say that yes, it is the proof that A has stolen B's money. Okay. So now this evidence, ultimately, when it was proven, it became a proof against A. So evidence starts the case. It serves as the means to the end of the proof. Evidence is used to prove a certain point, just how it is used in advocacy, in the art of lawyering, in the art of judging, adjudication. Evidence has also played role in other fields also. Okay, what the role it has played. So historians also, what historians do, they go on the sites. Okay, they do archaeological surveys, they collect the remains, archaeological remains, they bring the archaeological remains to establish a certain point. Okay, so for example, they will bring certain remains and they will say that yes, this XYZ civilization existed, this evidence is the proof that that civilization existed. Similarly, when you look into media, what media does, media goes and investigate account into events, right? They use interview, they use archives, they observe, they do live reporting to establish that yes, to prove that yes, an instance has particularly happened. So therefore, evidence is used everywhere. Now, even though this video is aimed at the students of law, the learners of law, I just want to iterate here that evidence law is something which every person should be sensitized about, because every day we are using evidence law, every day we are using evidence, we are despite the fact or irrespective of the fact whether we are in a litigation or not. Evidence is the basic existence in this, in the society, in every field. Everything requires an evidence. So evidence therefore becomes the way to prove anything, be it in the court or be it out of the court. Therefore, this becomes an important topic which all of us should be aware about. Now, these series are specifically aimed at enhancing the conceptual understanding of students who are preparing for various entrance examinations, specifically CLAT PG and CUET PG, that is scheduled in the December, right? We are also opening some slots for mentoring students for CLAT PG. You have all the knowledge. You can have all the knowledge. Nobody is doubting the knowledge you have. But sometimes what is needed to bridge the gap is the mentorship. So if you know a lot, if you know everything, but you are confused how to start your preparation, how to go about CLAT PG exam, we are opening 20 slots for such students. Some of them are filled and some of them are awaited to be filled. Please feel free to DM or to comment in the comment box below, or to reach out to us at legaldarshan@gmail.com. Right? The email ID is in the description box below. Please feel free to reach out to us. If you like this video, please share it with all your friends or your fellows and family members, because evidence is one basic thing. Evidence law is one basic thing that every person should be aware about, right? This is it for today's discussion. We will follow up and we will carry forward the discussion in the upcoming videos. Thank you everyone for staying till here. Please like, subscribe, share the channel. Please share this video as much as you can. Thank you everyone. Have a very, very nice day ahead.